a free-to-play open-world RPG where you unlock a variety of characters, each with their own unique moveset and abilities, along with a few co-op elements where you're able to get together with friends and clear different dungeons, explore the vast world, defeat bosses, get that loot, and level up to clear the endgame content. My name is Globku and this is Genshin Impact. Warning, if you are someone that struggles with gambling addiction, if you think you lack the self-control when it comes to loot boxes, card packs, or any other sort of random drops in exchange for money, stay the hell away from this game. I know it looks good, and in fact I'm about to recommend it, but it's also very good at drawing you in, making you think you don't need to spend money, and then slowly pushing you in that direction. So if you're someone that has struggled with these issues in the past, I recommend you stay away from this game, regardless of what I'll say for the rest of this review. Genshin Impact starts you off with a single character. By playing through the story, you'll unlock more out of the cast. Each one has their own elements. Your first character will have wind, which spreads the other elements around, so if you pick up your second character, the fire archer, and set the grass on fire, the wind burst will spread that fire, dealing damage to enemies. There are a total of 7 elements in Genshin Impact, each one with their own properties, and all of them interact with each other for some interesting effects. They are not only used in combat, but also in puzzle solving as well. In fact, a lot of Genshin Impact's action and story revolves around the elements. You start the game in a region of Mondstadt, the region of wind. Later, you move on to the region of Liyue, the land of earth, or Geo as it's called in the game. Even the region design is centered around these elements, with wide open plains in Mondstadt and huge mountainy rocks in Liyue. Each city has their own god, with the god of wind preaching liberty, where the people's free will comes before anything else, and the god of earth descending upon the city of Liyue once a year, giving them predictions of what's to come, making Liyue the #1 city in the world when it comes to trading and economics. Elements are at the core of this game in all things. Each character also has a preferred weapon of choice. Some can do quick slashes with a sword, others prefer the slower, heavier slashes of the claymore. You also have the spear characters, and then the ranged characters with magic and bows. This creates a decent variety in characters, not only in the way they look, but the way they play as well. And you'll usually be playing with 4 characters in your party, which allows for a ton of different combinations of elements and playstyles. Unfortunately, getting the characters isn't always easy. The game will give you some, in fact the game will give you all the characters you need to beat its story. So if all you care about is playing through the story missions and explore the open world, then you have nothing to worry about. But most of these characters can only be unlocked via random drops, in this game's version of loot boxes. These banners, as they're known in the Gacha community, have different rates to pull different characters or weapons, and to get them, you need to spend a currency called Primogem. Now, you can get Primogem from a variety of activities. Every time you open a new chest, every time you get an achievement, there are even daily quests that give you Primogem. But the more you play the game, the more scarce the Primogem becomes, so it can be quite hard to gather enough as a free-to-play player. This is where the microtransactions of this game come into play. In the store, you can buy Primogem to open more banners and eventually get the character you want. It takes 1600 Primogem to get 10 different pulls, and every 10 pulls you're guaranteed at least 1 4-star item, which could be a character or a 4-star weapon. Every 90 pulls you're guaranteed at least 1 5-star, so in theory it could cost you up to 14,400 primos to get a 5-star. That comes to about 120 bucks. You could get lucky and just get it on your first pull, but to guarantee it, you might need all the 90 pulls, and even then, the 5-star you get might be a weapon and not a character. So you really are gambling with your money, you just don't know what you're gonna get. When I play Genshin Impact, I almost see 2 games for 2 different types of gamer. One of them is the casual gamer, players who are just here to enjoy the story and exploration, and there really is a lot to enjoy. I was constantly blown away by how much this game had to offer, despite it being completely free to play. In the open world, you find chests everywhere. Some are obvious, you just defeat a bunch of monsters and unlock the chest. Others are tied to elemental puzzles, or they're just secrets. There's barely anything highlighting the chest, but you happen to break something that looks off to you, and bam, a chest spawns in the world. You can guide these spirits back to their shrines, they also give you a chest. And you can get these collectibles that increase your stamina, and they might also unlock some secrets once you find all of them. And this design is excellent. It encourages exploration and experimentations. None of these chests are marked on the map. In fact, the only thing that you have on your map are dungeons and fast travel points. So it really falls upon you to spot these things from a distance, to go and check out each location that piques your interest. Along with the exploration, there are a ton of quests, starting with the main quests, which explore the main narrative. The main character had their sibling taken away by some kind of god, and they're trying to get them back. The problem is, in this world, there are many gods, so you gotta find the right one. You start in Mondstadt and learn about their god and customs, all in the interest of finding your sibling. Then you have the story quests. These are small, contained stories, usually focused on one of the characters that you can unlock. It's a nice look into their background and personality, making them more than characters with just a cool design. Both the story quests and the main quests are fully voiced in 4 different languages, and I can only speak to the English voice acting, but it is phenomenal. None of it feels low cost or ham-fisted, it's top notch really, complete with amazing looking cutscenes and sometimes even unique boss encounters and activities. I really like the look of this game. During gameplay or cutscene, it's one of the best looking anime games I've played, complete with one of the best soundtracks that I've heard this year. It's both minimal and epic when it needs to be, and it's got a lot of elements from traditional Chinese music, which is a very nice change compared to the soundtracks that we're used to. Extremely original, and very, very pleasant. Then you also have the world quests, which are mostly filler. Some of them are interesting, but most are just fetch quests, and these are typically not voiced, but hey, they give you good XP. Outside quests and exploration, you also have dungeons and domains. Dungeons usually involve puzzles and platforming along with combat. Their design is relatively simple, but can be quite creative. Unfortunately, right now, dungeons can only be done solo, there's no multiplayer for these. There is, however, multiplayer for the domains. Domains are a bit less interesting though, it's usually just waves of enemies coming at you, so it's really just a combat encounter that you clear for materials and loot. If you're the type of player just looking to clear the content available to you, this game is very free-to-play friendly. There's absolutely no need for you to spend money on characters or weapons. I never felt like the game was gating the story progress behind my experience points. I mean, some quests will require a higher level than what you currently have, but there's always so much to do that it just never felt like a barrier. It felt more like an incentive to go out there and explore other things the game has to offer. On the other hand, if you want to reach the endgame content and level up your characters all the way, then you're gonna need to grind, and doing that as a free-to-play can be extremely time-consuming. Currently, the endgame is the Spiral Abyss. Much like the domains, it's a series of combat encounters. It can only be done solo, but it also has a twist. Each floor gives you a bonus, and each level within that floor gives you a buff to choose from, so your team composition matters a lot, as well as the buffs that you pick. Each floor gets progressively harder, with the last floors being farmable and dropping very good materials, but at the end of the day, it is just a combat encounter, and you can only do it solo. To me, this endgame content isn't appealing enough to suffer through the grind that this game subjects you to. But there's also the promise of more content to come, and the roadmap does look very promising, with multiplayer raids coming out later and an expansion of the map coming out this year still. I mean, if you look at the map right now, up here we have Mondstadt, Land of the Wind, and down here we have Liyue, Land of Earth. The next area will be the Lightning area, which no one knows how big it really is, but we can expect it to be at least as big as Mondstadt, which is just the prologue area. And that will be a free update, complete with new exploration puzzles, chests, quests, everything. That's crazy for a free update. And maybe that amount of content will make the grind a bit more tolerable, but for now, it's just a promise and not a reality. To give you an idea of how much of a grind this game becomes, let's look at what it takes to level up a single character. First, you gotta get their actual level up to level 20. That's your first level cap. You do this with experience books that you find in chests and that you get as quest rewards. Then you have to ascend that character, raising the level cap to 40. You do this by consuming materials dropped by monsters or domains. After level 40, you need to ascend them again, this time for a lot more materials, and you keep repeating this process until you hit the final level cap. Outside of their level, you also have your weapon, which you can level up by consuming other weapons or by consuming these crystals that can be crafted. After the weapon hits the cap, they also must be ascended for more and more materials the higher the weapon level is. Weapons can also be refined by consuming duplicates of that weapon, which means ideally you want to have 5 of the same weapon so you can refine it up to max level. Then each character also has 5 different artifacts. Artifacts come in a set. If you have the set equipped, you get the set bonus, but they also have a main stat associated with them. So first you gotta find the artifact that you like, and then you gotta level up each of the 5 artifacts by consuming other artifacts. And at first, each artifact you consume is gonna level you up a bunch, but later 10 artifacts might not even level you up once, and then you still got talents. And to level up the talents, you need to farm special materials from domains on certain days of the week, and finally constellations, which you can only unlock by getting duplicates of that character in the random summons, which honestly seems impossible to do as a free-to-play. So to summarize, each character has to be leveled and ascended multiple times. Weapons also need to be leveled, refined, and ascended. Artifacts need to be leveled. Talents also need to be leveled, and then you have constellations, which will probably never be maxed out. Overwhelmed yet? Well, just multiply that by the number of characters in this game. We were only talking about a single character right now, and you usually walk around with 4 of them. That's 4 times the amount of work, which means you really gotta be selective with the characters you want to level up. Otherwise, it could take you literally years to farm everything you want. At some point, the quests stop. There's no more content, and the game becomes just a grind for experience, for materials, for all of this. All with the objective of clearing the spiral abyss and getting ready for the promised future content. And for players who want to go on that journey, this game is not so free-to-play friendly. There's a limit to how much you can do every day, as most materials that you need drop from domains and world bosses, and to collect those materials, you need to spend resin, which if you've played a mobile game in the past, it's kinda like a stamina system. You can play Primogen to regenerate the resin or wait for it to regenerate on its own. So there's a limit to how much you can grind on a daily basis. And the resin honestly makes it super restrictive, especially when paired up with multiplayer. Multiplayer is a bit odd for now. What you can do is very limited. First of all, you have the resin system limiting the number of world bosses or domains that you can collect rewards from, and the thing is, that's all you can do in multiplayer. I mean, theoretically you could join another player's world and explore with them, but you can't open up any chests, do quests, or even unlock new statues or fast travel points. You are extremely limited as a guest in someone else's world. So co-op is mostly used for clearing domains and world bosses, and after a short amount of time, you'll run out of resin and just return to your own world. Maybe future content will provide a better multiplayer experience, because this game is really set up for success. It has crossplay between all platforms, that is PlayStation 4, PC, Android, and iOS. No matter where your friends are playing, they can join you, unless they are from a different region. The game has 4 regions, and if you try to switch, you will start over. It's essentially a new save. Nothing you did on the other save carries over, and if a player is in a different region, you won't even find them on your friends list. If I had the power to change anything in this game, it would be the cross region and the resin system. These 2 are major bummers in Genshin Impact. By the way, PC and mobile also have cross save. I don't like playing mobile, just something about the frame rate and the touch controls that not really for me, but it's good for getting the login bonuses and maybe doing dailies before I log back out. It does drain a ton of battery, so it's something that I didn't take advantage of very often. I did play on PC for most of the time, and I've noticed that the PS4 doesn't run as smoothly as this, and you can especially tell in loading times. Fast traveling on PC is so much faster compared to the PS4, and in a game where you're gonna have daily routines traveling from place to place, that is gonna make a huge difference over time. But if you're only here casually for the story and exploration, take your pick. Both versions are fine, and it's also coming out to Switch next year, and I suspect it will run very similar to the PS4. With all that said, it's time to score this game. If you're new here, we use letters to score our games. F and E are bad games, D and C are okay, B and A are the good games, and this is my score for Genshin Impact.
What is this disturbance to which I awaken?
How the hell is this game free? The game has its problems. There's not enough content to carry you to the endgame. It gets so grindy, and in a way, I honestly kinda despise it. Too much is now hanging on the promising roadmap and how much of that promise they can fulfill. But that grind only comes after 30 hours of story quests and exploration that have been so satisfying, and with a AAA quality of production for the value of absolutely nothing. It's free, and very free to play friendly as well. You don't need to spend a single cent during these 30 hours. I know, because I didn't do it until I was done with the story quests. I have now bought the battle pass, full disclosure. You can see it all as a free to play player. What comes after that is a bonus from my perspective. Yes, it gets grindy, it encourages microtransactions, but that's only after the content is done. And who knows what the updates will bring, which the updates will also be free, by the way. I highly recommend Genshin Impact to all audiences out there. Unless you think you'd struggle with the gambling aspects after you clear the content, it's really hard to put this game down. If you keep grinding, at some point you will crack. That's the only exception I'd make, and I hope the resin system gets reworked. It feels way too limiting right now. But again, none of this gets in the way if you just want to enjoy the quests, the exploration, the lore. There's a lot of fun to be had there, and it's all free. Mind blown. But that's only my opinion. I'd love to hear yours as well. If you've played Genshin Impact, let the people know what you think in the comments. That way, if a new player arrives at this review, they've heard my opinion, but they can read yours as well. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye.